Hey everyone, so this is Veronica Mars, season 1, episode 9, called Drinking the Kool Aid. So, this episode centers around a fellow student named Casey Gant, who whose parents feel like he is sucked into this cult, and so they ask Keith to investigate said cult. Um, and so that's really the case of the week. So essentially, what happens is, Keith, has to investigate, like I said, whether this play. I mean, the only reason and the only thing that they can really ask him to do is just find out if this place is doing anything bad, because it can't get his parents can't get this cult on kidnapping because technically Casey is 18 years old, so he's not a minor anymore. So this cult is called Mooncalf Collective, and we find out that Casey, essentially 6 weeks prior to his parents coming to Keith, had changed, and he um, even sold his car and gave the proceeds of that, what he got from selling the car, to the collective. And so they're like, we need you to find anything on them to make them sort of disband and stuff. So since Veronica is still going to school with Casey as of right now, Keith asks her to try to find anything out while at school and to stay away from Mooncalf Collective. So, she what she does is she submits a piece to this, when like we don't see this on the screen, but she submits this piece to the literary magazine, which is separate from the newspaper. It's just a collection of like stories or poems, I guess, that students can submit to. And there's this teacher named Holly Mills who runs it. And according to Casey's ex girlfriend, Darcy, he got in tight with Holly Mills. So um, that's why she submitted a piece to the literary magazine. So one day, Holly Mills comes up to Veronica talking about the piece that she submitted, and asks her to come to uh, the Mooncalf Collective place, with her after school. So Veronica agrees, even though Keith had her swear to not go there, and stuff like that. So she goes there, and Holly, kind of kids her about there's something in the barn that is forbidden to look at and stuff like that. Um, she meets, the leader of the collective named Josh, um, and finds, she meets everyone else there, including another like young girl around her age named Rain. Um, and so Rain's like, well, she expresses to Veronica that whatever's in the barn is the ultimate cash crop. So Veronica is asked to speak around the campfire later that night to, like, the piece that she had submitted to the literary magazine, and so she feigns like, I that she's scared of speaking in front of other people she doesn't know, and tries to look in the barn, but is then scared by the horse that she sees behind the barn door. Um, so next day, she goes back to the Mooncalf Collective, and Josh shows her that they're just throwing poinsettias. Um, and while she's there, Keith is granted permission to look around because he is there under the guise that he's a city employee working for like the water company, and he sees her there. So when she eventually goes home, um, he gives her the riot act and stuff like that, and she tries to apologize because she assumed, she just thought that it would be harmless, especially considering after everything that she really heard and seen the last 2 days while she was there. So we find out from Keith that Josh, the leader of this or this collective, really isn't that bad on paper because um, he like up until 4 years before this, he was working for like this company that sold ringtones, I guess, that you could download for your phone or something. And Holly's clean as well. So he takes her off the case because of the fact that she disobeyed orders, and he's she's upset because he doesn't seem to want to hear what she has to say, which I kind of see both of their sides. Like, why should Keith listen to what you have to say when you literally disobeyed his orders? Um, but why not try to listen? I can understand her points. Like, why not just hear what I have to say, based off of what I found? So, um, and then just then, as they're kind of arguing, Josh's parents plus another guy comes in, um, and we find out this guy is like a deprogrammer for people who were in cults. And the reason why Josh's parents and this guy are here is because Josh's grandmother had a severe stroke and is technically brain dead, but is kept alive by ventilators. And it's only a matter of days until she dies. And she left the bulk of her fortune, which is $80 million, to him. So, so the next day, while Veronica tells Wallace about everything, and she expresses the feeling that he's actually a genuinely good guy now, and it's mainly, if not the sole reason for that is because of the collective. And so Wallace is like, if I didn't know any better, I would think that you were drinking the Kool Aid, um, which is, I assume, where the title comes from. So um, Casey, then is like, can you come with me? Veronica, can you come with me to the hospital and all of that, after school? And so she agrees. At the hospital, he's like, well, like my parents, um, money, it all comes from my grandma's publishing company that she started. Um, it's it does They had nothing to do with it, essentially. And when they've never even really liked her, because and it's all demonstrated in the fact that they called her grand monster behind her back. And when she started having strokes, um, like a couple years prior, um, they she started to forget things. They stopped looking after her and all that stuff. And they only started being nice to Casey really when they found out that his grandmother was leaving the bulk of her fortune to him, which was a year before all this started. Um, So Veronica goes home eventually and sees a picture of Rain on a milk carton that she grabs out of the fridge. And her real name is Debbie Myers. So she shows this to Keith, and Keith's like, well, this is all we need to get them shut down because Debbie Myers is a underage runaway. Excuse me. Um, and Veronica is like, look, you do realize that these people aren't the big bad that the Gants had portrayed them as, right? Because um like they're not the big bad that these people are portraying them as. Do you really think that she's better off where she came from or where she is now? And Keith, you know, doesn't really um like buy this or anything. It doesn't really buy it. So she's under the impression that he's going to give this information to the Gants. The next day at school, she tries to warn Holly about what she learned and told her father before Casey walks in on them before she can say anything and it reveals that his grandmother died. So they all go to the funeral, and after that, Casey is taken into the limo that his parents are at forcibly, and so tries to tell Keith about it. Like he's like, well, there's not really much I can do. Well, because even though while I believe that you saw what you saw, which was him being forcibly taken into the um into the limo, the cops might not believe that. So, especially based off of who Veronica is and who she's the daughter of. So, and then Keith reveals that um, he didn't actually turn over the information to the Gants about Debbie, um, and the reason for that was because he realized, she was right, especially after he looked up Debbie or Rain and realized that she was in 4 foster homes from the time she was 8 years old, and so in two of them, at least two of them, there was I think either proof or accusations of severe abuse while she was there. And so he was like, look, she's better off here than she was there. So I didn't give them this information, which makes her happy. So that's really the main kind of case of the week. A little side, like the only other really kind of like um, other plot point in this episode is the fact that um, Veronica decides to try to get a paternity test done with her and Keith um, to see if Keith is actually her father. After Abel Koontz tells her about Jake being her father. So at the beginning of the episode, she tells him that she's trying to do this at home or this self-administered HIV test for health class, and she's kind of punking out, and um, she's like, well, if you take the test for me, nobody know that it was from you because at least we know you've been sexually active. We know I haven't. And I mean, we know that I wouldn't have HIV in the first place. That's what she tells him. So she manages to get him to prick his finger and place the blood on a card and then she pricks her finger and sends it off. Sends both her blood and his blood off. And then towards at the end of the episode, she ends up getting the DNA results. But what she ends up doing is she ends up um, shredding the envelope without ever opening it. And Keith's room, and the shredder's in Keith's room. So, um, and this is what I was talking about in my previous video about the whole paternity issue, sort of kind of taking its time within these episodes. It doesn't, and it's not. I hate to kind of spoil if anybody hasn't really watched this show before, um, but it doesn't really get resolved right away. It doesn't get resolved for several more episodes. I believe from what I remember. Um, so that's really all of this episode. And like I said, this is like another good episode. I think. And I think this was just another standard episode of the first season. Um, it didn't. I mean, I didn't absolutely love it, but I mean, I didn't absolutely hate it either. So I think this is just, like I said, another standard episode. Um, Probably this is like more of like a middle of the road episode for me. Um, and I mean, like none of the characters really kind of annoyed me this episode. Um, so I mean, there's not much I feel like I can say other than that. Um, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.